I know that none of our listeners have a 401k with their employers. Oh, go ahead. I know this, right? None of you are in a retirement plan associated and sponsored by your employer. Oh, okay, I'm wrong. Well, then that's actually a good thing that I'm wrong. Because guess what, guys? Things are changing. We've got some new rules. Yes, and they involve one of the most precious aspects of your compensation, your 401k. And it might even go deeper than that because, well, why should anything be simple, right? You're listening to The Human Resource. And my name is Pandy. And today I have with me a retirement advisor with the Rosselot Financial Group, Todd Ywait. Now, what you don't know is that Todd and I have known each other for a very, very long time. And I just won't cut him any slack at all for his New York background or for his wonderful cultural personality. And if you know me, you know that the two of us in the same room. Worse yet, when I'm bringing him in to work with a client, it can get very colorful sometimes. But Todd has helped me out in so many different ways. And I just could not, when I saw what was going on and some of the changes that were coming, I just had to give him a call and say, hey, you're not putting on any webinars. You're not talking enough about this, and I've got a platform where I need you. So, Todd, thanks for coming and sacrificing yourself and your time.
Thanks for having me, Pandy. And any time.
He knows how to deal with me. Let me just say that. He knows how to deal with me. How long have you been doing financial planning?
So I've been in the financial services business since October of 1987. I started specializing in employer-sponsored retirement plans in 1994.
Okay. So you're an old shoe like me. You have seen the evolution of these plans and all the changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is not something that employers themselves or anyone listening to the show that has HR responsibilities. This is not something that they should ignore or walk away from.
Right, they're going to have to address it at some point. Yes.
Now, when did the Secure Act come out?
Well, the Secure Act 2.0 just got passed in the appropriations bill that was passed by Congress, and it went into law December 29th of 2022. Now, there's different effective dates. There's over 90 provisions of this law, and they all have different effective dates ranging from right now all the way out to 10 years from now.
Okay, no, wait a minute. That sounds even complicated for the government.
Yes.
And employers are supposed to know this stuff?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the industry wasn't ready. So there's not a record keeper in the land that is ready to accept the new provisions that are allowed in plans, and there's not a third-party administrator that's ready to amend documents yet. Good news is you have until 2025 to actually amend your document, but anything that's immediately eligible to start, in your plan right now, that you can operate that plan without amending the document until 2025.
Okay, so now you understand why I have him on the show. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to back him up because some of our viewers are international companies who have locations here in the United States, and they're listening to the podcast. They're sending me feedback. Let's break this down as to what exactly we're talking about. What kind of plans are we talking about?
Sure. So the Secure Act 2.0 addresses pretty much every single private sector retirement plan in America. There's a few exceptions. Government plans are exempt from this. Church plans are exempt from this. And then if you have like a real small business, less than 10 people, you're exempt from this legislation, as well as if you're a new startup company and haven't been in business for 3 years yet, you're exempt until you pass the 3-year mark.
Oh, that's important.
Yep. But pretty much everybody else is going to be affected whether you have a plan today or you decide to start one this year.
Okay. So if you've been in business for 3 years, you're growing enough that you want to introduce or provide a plan, this is going to hit you between the eyes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good stuff in it. We've been waiting a long time for the Secure Act 2.0. Congress couldn't get their act together. So, it's funny when it came to budget time and they had to pass a budget bill, they crammed this into that budget bill, and that's how they got bipartisan support for it.
Oh, so you don't think anybody's really read this?
Do they ever read anything that they pass?
So,
us in the industry are reading it, and it's over 1,000 pages, so yes.
well, you said 90 different provisions.
Yes.
So start us out with, okay, let's just rough it. The top 10.
Sure. So the number one off the bat, if you didn't have a plan prior to December 29th of 2022, so you're starting a brand new plan this year or beyond, your plan automatically has to have the automatic enrollment provision. So no longer there's going to be a setup to where you can have a plan where participants actually have to enroll. So all these plans moving forward will be automatically enrolled at 3%, then annually increased for each participant up to 10% until it gets to 10% of their salary. Unless the employee goes online or fills out a form saying I don't want to participate or I want to participate at a different rate.
Okay. So the employee still gets to control it.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Number 2.
So anyway, so that's a big one, and that's effective immediately. However, it doesn't kick in until 2025. Okay, so in other words, if you start a plan 2023, you're impacted by that regulation. But you could actually have a plan for 2 years that's not auto-enroll, but then in 2025 you'd have to amend the document to add it. So what I'm recommending to most of the folks that I'm talking to is you might as well just start with the auto-enrollment and avoid having to do amendments to your document.
Well, you've been suggesting that to my clients for the last few years, so I know that they're doing the auto, and that employees can go in and waive out.
Absolutely. And that's not changing. But what did change is the employer loses the right to say, I don't want auto-enrollment. They're automatically going to have it.
Okay.
So number 2 that I think is important for plan sponsors to realize is long-term part-time employees are now eligible for 401ks. So even if you have, say, an hours requirement of 1,000 hours in your plan document, which is the maximum you can go out to, basically anybody that works 500 hours or more moving forward for 2 consecutive years must be given the right to participate in the plan. Now, the employer doesn't have to match them, but they have to allow that long-term part-time employee the ability to save for their retirement.
And that's the classification of part-time, not temporary seasonal intern.
Unless they log 500 hours or more in a calendar year and they do it in 2 consecutive calendar years.
Well, that's only 25% of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So a temporary employee certainly could do that.
Yep, absolutely. So just say you have a temporary employee for 2 straight years and they log 500 hours for both those years, and they come back the 3rd year and they're going to be eligible to start saving some money in the retirement plan.
Is there an age on that one?
Nope.
So this could include 17, 18-year-olds that are coming, or college students that are coming back, working through the summer, or working.
Well, if your plan has an age minimum of, say, age 21, then those people would not. It doesn't matter how many hours they work, would not be eligible.
Okay, so the age still stays.
So
That's
you
in
could
the plan
still
document.
have an age requirement. Yeah, but some companies, they don't have an age requirement. So if they don't have an age requirement, then anybody logs 500 hours or more, 2 consecutive years, they're going to be eligible to at least save in the plan. And again, the employer will not be required to match them. Okay. So if there's a match in the program, they don't have to give it to that part-time employee.
Okay.
Now, I think the biggest headache for the employer with that rule there is they're now going to have to start tracking hours. Some employers don't track hours. They're going to have to start tracking hours in their payroll system. So they're going to have to work with their payroll provider to make sure that employees' hours are being tracked.
Hint to listeners. If you have a temporary employee, most likely that individual is a non-exempt employee, and non-exempt employees are supposed to be paid what? Yes, actual hours worked, which means we're supposed to be tracking those hours, and they're supposed to be recorded in case of an audit. So if you've got a temporary, a part-time, or a seasonal employee, and you're not tracking hours, you need to be listening to more podcasts. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. That's a good message there. So the number 3 thing that I think is important over the next few years is that tax credits have gone up. So the whole point of this legislation, really, and like I said, there's a lot of good stuff. There's some bad stuff. We don't really need to get into those weeds. But the good stuff is they're just trying to increase coverage for people, trying to get more people involved in retirement plans,
Okay.
Including businesses. So what they're doing to try to entice businesses that don't currently offer a retirement plan is increased tax credits. So on the books today, there's always been the first 3 years that you start a plan, you get a 50% tax credit for administration costs. And the other 50% you can have a tax deduction on, okay? And that's up to a maximum of $5,000 a calendar year. That's been in the books today. They just changed that to 100% of admin costs up to $5,000 for the first 3 years as a tax credit to the business. And then after 3 years is a tax deduction. But then they added up to $1,000 tax credit per employee for matching.
Oh, that's very good.
So if you don't have a plan, you're going to start a plan. The first 3 years, depending on the size of your company, the first 3 years you pretty much could have no cost as an employer. I mean, yeah, you're laying out money, but you're getting the tax credits. So it's that is a very positive thing.
Very. Okay, good. Give me another one.
All right, and that's effective immediately. So anybody starts a plan now, it's effective immediately. The next one I think that's important is they're increasing the catch-ups for older folks. So the catch-up contribution is an additional contribution an employee over the age of 50 can make, and it's been on the books. And this year you can do a $6,500 contribution in that bucket above and beyond your normal salary deferral. Okay. What they're going to start doing starting in 2025 is for people that are 60, 61, 62, and 63 years of age, they're going to be able to do the catch-up with either the greater of $10,000 or 150% of whatever the 2024 catch-up limit is.
Oh, my.
So for those 4 years of your life, you're going to be able to have a souped-up catch-up contribution. And that goes into effect, 2025 plan years.
It goes into effect.
Yep. So not quite there yet.
But if I'm going to be over 63 in 25.
Well, if you're over 63, then you're back to the normal catch-up. For some reason, they put in age 60, 61, 62, and 63. They figured if you get to 64, you're probably ready to retire and not throwing more money in.
Oh, little did they know. Okay.
Yeah, so that goes into effect in 2025, as I said. And then one of the things that can be construed as either positive or negative with the new law is if you're a highly compensated employee, and what that means is a 5% or more owner of a business, or you are making more than $145,000 in a calendar year. If you're making a catch-up contribution because you're over 50, you're going to be required to do that in a Roth bucket. So in other words, instead of doing it pre-tax and getting the tax deduction up front, any catch-up contribution for highly compensated employees will be coming from their net check, already taxed.
Yes.
The monies will grow taxed, income tax-free. The nice thing, though, is that they pull it out tax-free.
Yeah. So
they lose the deduction up front.
Yes, and we're betting that the taxes are higher now than they would be.
Yes.
Right? Is that what we're betting on?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So anyway, that goes in effect in 2024. So for plan years 20, so up until then, you can still do a pre-tax Roth. And then as an optional feature, this is not mandated, but as an optional feature, you could also allow any employee to do their catch-up in Roth.
This is. Do you see how complicated this is? But listen to what he's already told us. Don, I'm going to take you to the next show. Because we've got 5 more things you need to be aware of in regards to your 401k that are now being introduced with this Secure Act 2.0. This is why you're listening to us. This is why I bring these guys on. You need to know this stuff. And we're the human resource.